And my guest today is Nick Zaldastani. Nick is the chairman and co-founder at CESS Storage, which we'll learn all about today. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, it's good to be here, Andy. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Nick. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. It would be great, Nick, if you could please introduce yourself. I'd love to hear some of your personal and professional backstory, really. I guess what you've been doing in the lead up to co-founding CESS. What does that path look like? Please go for it.
Absolutely. And to make it easier for you, we just say CESS, CESS, CESS.
Great.
And so my history, I've been coding since I was 13 years old, 12 years old, and grew up in the whole technology space. In my late 20s, I went to Oracle when it was only about 500 people. And so I saw a company go from not being well known to being the dominant player in database storage. I saw them go through the challenges and I saw them go through the successes the entire way. I was there for about 6 years and then went from there to building a company that actually was a middleware company connecting everything together, which interestingly enough fits really well into the DePIN thinking and ecosystem thinking. And over the past roughly 20 years, since the beginning of the century, I have been I call myself a mentor capitalist, but what I really do is I find a few companies every 3 years. I find one type of thing, and I really get involved. And so, although I'm just chairman in terms of, you could say, what does the chairman do? I'm a very active chairman because I'm extremely passionate about the promise of Web3, which I thought we were getting in 1995. Boy, did we not get that. And so the delivery, the opportunity for Web3 to happen, and everything that your audience knows about Web3 is something I wanted to see happen back in 1995, 1996, 1997. The opposite has happened. So I passionately founded this company with two other people to really bring back, the value of data, the control of our own data. I mean, it's scary what's happening nowadays. I mean, everything I do. I mean, I have one of those beds that you can program, and I'm realizing that the company knows everything I'm doing. They probably know my body temperature as I sleep, and they're probably selling it. Oh my gosh. So, this is so exciting to be part of this. And so I'm traveling the world this year. I did a bit of that last year, but the travel's getting even more extensive. Very excited to be going to Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Dubai, and most importantly, talking to people that are really looking at creating not projects, but real solutions using the sophistication and the power of Web3. And that's my personal excitement because I saw the same thing happen with Oracle. I mean, when I was there, Oracle had been around for about 10 years, but a lot of the projects people were doing back in the late 80s were, off to the side. They weren't the big mainframe solutions. They weren't running the businesses yet. And the same thing is happening with Web3 projects. And we need to move them from projects to real corporate enterprise solutions. And that's what I see happening in 2024. Already signals of that, working with PwC and other organizations, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and other consulting firms in the United States, and then just seeing what's happening in the Pacific Rim and in Dubai and Europe to really provide a solution that an enterprise can count on. So this is why I'm so excited about this space and continue to drive it at providing, we at CESS are providing a full ecosystem for people, not just a storage system, but full content delivery network and a full ecosystem that interoperates with other ecosystems. One of the things I personally believe in is openness and transparency, and most importantly, the connectivity. That's why I started the company in the 90s in the middleware space, connecting all sorts of different companies to databases together. Same thing happens here. And just the most exciting thing that happened last year was we started looking at how we could connect actually Web 2 players. Like, can you picture, Google Cloud now talking to Amazon Cloud as an example? Well, you can use an ecosystem like CESS to make that happen. And so this is where it gets very exciting. And then, of course, you don't get to see any data within the CESS ecosystem unless I want you to see it. I can also turn it off, which is really exciting. So that taking control, having that value back again is so important.
Yes, yes, indeed. And look, thank you, Nick. And also thank you for correcting me there. The reason I had CESS is because, I've got in my notes and my research, I've got the Cumulus Encrypted Storage System, which is a little bit of a mouthful. So and it's capitals CESS, but of course, CESS is much easier to say. But I'm fascinated by this idea. I guess Cumulus, that means cloud, right? So I'm sure that's a reference to data being in the cloud. But I think this is a good opportunity, Nick, just to kind of, for people that are starting to pick up that this is about, decentralized data storage, hence the storage, hence the cloud, hence the Cumulus. But just give us your kind of high level vision statement, if you like, for CESS.
I think that we all have seen and talked about for quite some time now the promise of Web3. And a lot of the things that have been happening is sort of like ingredients. For people that have been around in the technology space for a while, the relational structure, companies like Lotus 1-2-3 and the early versions of Microsoft Excel, you had rows and columns and all this type of stuff. It was the beginning of what really became the foundation of data storage, with the relational database and the relational storage being an object layer database. But it took a lot of time. It took a lot of resource. It took a lot of experience. And so what we've seen over the past 7-8 years is we've seen some, decentralized storage, but we have really seen it in a way that is not enterprise friendly. Replication not being part of that mix, speed not being part of that mix. And so we at CESS, when we embarked on this 4.5 years ago, we really embarked on this for creating an environment for the enterprise. And what do I mean by that? That means that, first of all, the amount of storage had to be very efficient. You can't take 5 nodes, for example, and have every node have 3 terabytes of space, and that 5 times 3 should be 15. But many solutions out there, that's more like only 3 terabytes, because that's the way they've been built. And so the whole importance of really maximizing the node storage is really important. The speed is equally important. We can't be waiting seconds, like 10, 15, 20 seconds to download an image. We need it like that. We need to be able to stream video. In fact, we won 2 Polkadot hackathons back about a year and a half ago and a year ago over in Asia for just that alone. Companies that were building on CESS's environment a full Netflix-like distribution system for video. We can handle that because of the way we've thought this through. We've really taken a step back and said, okay, what did people do really well in the original Oracle-like, relational storage systems, in the cloud systems in Web 2, and how do we take the best of all this and bring it into Web 3? And so we have a very large international team. I mean, it's, I should say, global team of technologists. This isn't like 5 people sitting in a coffee shop. This is, a huge amount of developers worldwide that have had tremendous experience of prior technology versions, or I should say, have had database knowledge from years, like myself. And so we're bringing it forward. And, it's been fascinating because I've seen the alignment with what we're doing and what the industry is doing with what happened, as I said, with the original departmental storage systems, and then the internet storage systems, and the Web 2 storage systems, and now the Web 3 storage systems. History kind of goes like a spiral, and it just gets better. And so when you look at it from that perspective, and you think through the features that are essential before you launch, that's critical. And if I go into that a little more, what do I mean? Is like, we could have launched the mainnet 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but it would not have had the sophistication that we now have today. We are just released our 13th rev on the testnet. That means that over 40,000 developers, nodes have been put up on our test net over that period of time. Our current version, I think it's exceeding about 5,000 nodes, the latest one that we just released at the end of January. We are taking the feedback and incorporating that into the development. We really value our community. We don't want any community member to feel that we're not delivering what they need to be successful. Most of the developers we're working with are not looking just to show a little, hey, I can put a picture on the Web3 environment and bring it down safely and it's secure. That's nice. We're looking at how do you really run an organization, an HR system, a sales system. This data you can't mess around with. This is what I call the lifeblood of an organization. And you can't have solutions like that out there unless you can be trusted. And so for us, we're building that trust through this close relationship we have with our community. And so our community, and whether it's Discord or whether it's GitHub or however our website, our Twitter, or X, I should say, all these things are mechanisms we have to connect with our community. And to me, our community is priceless. This is what's most important about what we're doing. If we're going to let people down with the vision we have, you brought up the word vision earlier, we see a totally interoperative operating world out there. There'll be our ecosystem that provides the decentralized data storage and content delivery network. And then there'll be our own blockchain that provides the speed required for video. But there's others out there. We're completely open. Our APIs are out there. You can see everything we're doing at GitHub. You can plug in. And so we see those connections being absolutely critical to what's happening in Web3 success. If we as the Web3 community don't work well together, this will never happen. It's very different. This is what excites me the most. Back in 1990, 1991, 1992, it was competitive. Let's go beat IBM. Let's go beat Ingress. Let's beat Informix. Let's beat Sybase. No, the thinking of Web3 is how do we work all together to provide a solution that truly allows us to get back the value of the data. And that's how we see the vision and how we see working with people.
Yeah, got it. Makes sense, Nick. That is indeed the ethos of Web3. And to achieve that, though, to get that kind of seamless interoperability between different platforms, solutions, projects, businesses, B2B, and of course consumers as well, you need a kind of you need a standard, right? And as I understand it, it's called maybe I'll try and get this right, but it's called the IEEEP 3233 standard, which look, I've just discovered this today in the course of my research, Nick. You'll understand that, but I see that it is a new standard in terms of helping to provide that, I guess, interoperability for the decentralized storage Web3. So maybe just because as we're seeing rapid growth in this kind of industry, right, and the need for decentralized data. So just tell us, why we need this standard and how I hope that will help people like you take things to the next level, Nick.
So if we look at the history of technology evolution, standards are what accelerates the growth. However, it's hard to put standards together. IEEE is how IEEE is known. IEEE is a organization that I was part of as early as in my teens. When I went to Duke University's engineering school, you're required to participate in IEEE because they've been around for over 100 years. And when I say participate, you just become knowledgeable about what they're doing, how they operate, because they are one of the greatest standards bodies for electronics out there in the world. IEEE is sort of the gold stamp, so to speak. And if we look at, just even recently, the massive growth of IoT, which of course DePIN and IoT, we can see a lot of similarities there in terms of evolution. It was not until IoT had some standards that allowed systems like Google and Apple and Amazon to interoperate. With those interoperating, now you have so much more that you can do. And it's the same thing in the DePIN Web3 world. Standards are essential. And because of our knowledge of that, we went to IEEE and we said, where are you going with your thinking on decentralized storage? And we worked closely with them to start the roadmap. And I want to be clear, this is not something you just say, oh, let's go do this, and tomorrow it's like, yes, we're here. It is a process, because what IEEE does is they step back and they say, let's look at this entire ecosystem, not just CESS's ecosystem, the entire Web3 ecosystem. How is this coming together, and how could a standard help? And that's where it gets very exciting, because then coming back to our openness and our complete transparency, we are actually putting out a lot of what makes CESS so wonderful in all these documentations, because to make a standard work, you have to be open to that type of interaction. The APIs, as an example, have to be defined. I myself have dealt with a lot of IEEE standards. I was part of EDI back in the early 90s. That's electronic data interchange. It's how you move one data object from one computer system to another computer system. It's not just called over the internet. It was like, what was the form factor? It's unbelievable, but it was just about 25, 30 years ago. When we sent an order into a company, what would we do? We'd fax it over. I mean, or I won't say most, but I'm sure some of your listeners there barely know what a fax machine is. And yet just that 25, 30 years ago, that was how orders were sent between systems. And then what happened is you'd get a piece of paper and some operator would have to put that information in. It would have human error. Instead of ordering 10 units, they'd order 100 units because they put one more extra zero, or some crazy stuff happened. And this interoperability, the importance of understanding exactly how things are going to move around the ecosystem, is critical. And that's where a standard comes to play. And that's where the definition of the standard becomes essential. In fact, anyone that's an active developer should be following what IEEE is doing and potentially contribute to that, because everyone out there, that's what's going to make it so amazing, is that the standards with IoT were not created by, let's just say, Google or by Apple. It was created by the entire community. And some people put stuff out and they argued about it and they changed it, they modified it. And as a result, it became so solid that we've seen the massive growth that we see with IoT. And we are already seeing the same thing happen with DePIN. I mean, in many ways, CESS was built, with DePIN, but CESS was built for DePIN. And that's the decentralized physical infrastructure network. This is the same system that we see in IoT, but there's no centralized body that's controlling all the connections. It is controlled by the ecosystem, by the DePIN environment. And that's what gets exciting, because now your data is not getting stolen, like I was telling you earlier about all my IoT devices that are going to some company that's selling my data that knows more about me than I know myself, and that's the beauty of the future of Web3.
Look, you're exactly right, Nick. Look, maybe on that point, it'd be good if you could, people understand some of the different use cases for something like CESS for, decentralized data storage. Obviously, it's better if you don't have some kind of big centralized player like Google or Facebook having complete free reign over your data. So just maybe talk through.
They own your data.
Yeah, they do. And look, I think that's a great example of what was it? Your bed, your smart bed. Yeah, I mean, because you can just, it's the same with like electric cars and driverless cars. The data that someone like Tesla has on people's driving habits, and then that affects whether you can get insurance or not. And it's crazy. I mean, there are advantages to some of these systems, but there are disadvantages as well. I guess it's a roundabout way of, you're talking about DePIN as well, which is obviously a big narrative in crypto at the moment, but just love to understand, some of the, I guess another way of thinking about this is the different customer segments that you're targeting as well, from individuals to enterprises, but just use cases, Nick.
So first of all, I'm a big believer in baby steps. I mean, for those in the audience that are just getting involved or starting, go for the projects, just learn how this all works. the value proposition for decentralized storage is massive. It in many ways, you think about it this way, all the hacks that are going throughout the world today, computer hacks that are happening, they don't happen because typically someone on the inside knows something. It's typically someone that gets into the system has a proper account and then has figured out how to weave around to get to other accounts. In other words, it's because it's a centralized storage system, these hacks exist. If it was a decentralized storage system, they couldn't exist because they'd have to figure out everywhere they go. I mean, let's get a visualization here for your audience. In a centralized system, you're going to there's a big building and there's a computer system there with hard drives or with drive systems. And those are in one place. So if I'm storing, let's say, a very sensitive object onto that, it's going to be there in its entirety. Now, in a decentralized world, that object by the ecosystem is going to be split up into 100 pieces. Those 100 pieces are then going to be encrypted. Those encrypted pieces then are going to be replicated because we got to make sure we never lose the data. So it could be replicated 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, whatever you want. So now we have roughly 400 pieces of data, and they're spread throughout the world. So if you want to hack that system, what do you got to do? Not only do you have to find one and be able to decrypt it, but you have to find the other 100 pieces that are the right 100 pieces, not the duplicates, because the duplicates won't work with each other. And that becomes virtually impossible to hack. So this is a driving force for decentralized, as well as the user knowing that the value of that data is there, because the only person that can see and control that data is the person that put the data up there to start with. So unlike me putting stuff at Google, or any other storage system, where someone, if I give them the opportunity to see it, they can see it. They're seeing it again through a centralized lens. This is, without me giving the permission to go in and see it, virtually impossible to get into. And this drives the type of apps that we see being addressed early. Of course, I want to be very clear, as you think about what I'm saying, the most sophisticated apps should be already decentralized. The ones that are controlling electric grids and controlling power plants and all that type of stuff. But at the same point, the evolution and the trust of this new technology is going to take a little bit longer. So the happy place to go is where you're doing something not that's super important, but also isn't just a project, something in the middle where you control a situation. There is, like, for example, with video distribution, it's a great way. We are working with a company that literally was shut down by one of those centralized video storage facilities because the content was spiritual. And so they're looking at, they were attacked for viewpoints. And so those people had to take back control of their data, and they had to build their own farm. The United States government, similar things. Most governments, similar things. They don't want to put their stuff onto a cloud. They have their own server farms, but where they would ideally like to get to is to have, in essence, the same control of a server farm that you control completely, but that is benefiting from the cloud storage technology. And so it's exciting because I would say this year, this time last year, we started seeing the signals of large organizations, as I said, like PwC, that were embarking, but they were exploring. The United States IRS exploring, US government, other big corporations that we've been talking to exploring, but today they're now implementing. And so we're seeing this evolution towards a more sophisticated solution because companies like CESS have come along that provide that fully controllable system where everything's been thought through from all points to ensure that trust was warranted.
Yeah. and to help you and your team build out the different solutions for all these companies and users, Nick, I did see that you had a reasonably successful investment round that was announced just the end of last year, wasn't it? That puts you in good position going forward, I imagine.
It does. And I think what's most exciting is that I always look at every year I come up with sort of a phrase of what the year is going to be all about. And I've been fortunate enough to be pretty spot on. Last year, it was a year, I coined it as stop start. It was a year where we stopped and then we sort of, okay, we're going to go, stop, we're going to go. And that's really what 2023 was like. It was just like, it was almost getting obnoxious. This year is a little different. It's there's lots of energy out there, lots of excitement. We're getting into a great market again. But to me, there's lots of energy, but the energy has to be focused. What I'm seeing this year is that there's going to be a lot of noise. There's going to be a lot of excitement. There's going to be a lot of energy around the Web3 community and in industry overall. But it's going to be the rifle shots. It's going to be the precision that makes it work. And that's been one of the driving forces and why we have taken so long to go to the mainnet. Because we wanted to make sure we came when someone could 100%, because once you're on the mainnet, there's not much you can do because people are starting to build on top of you. You can't think, oh my gosh, I forgot about that API, or I forget about that idea, or I forget about this. You got to think it all the way through. And that's what we have done. And by waiting, this has given us the opportunity to provide a much more, as I said up front, a sophisticated solution in a year that's, I sort of coined as scattered energy. And when you have a year of scattered energy, it means the things that work are the things that are really focused. And the good news is I'm going to conferences, I'm talking to people, and compared to last year, where it was sort of like, oh my gosh, whatever we can do, we got to grab on, we just gotta stay alive. Now it's like, yes, let's go this way. Once we get here, then we'll shift here, then we'll shift here, then we'll shift here. And this is not just CESS. This is a group of, I think, companies that are really doing a great service to the whole dream of Web3.
Yeah, very well said, Nick. Look, as we start to finish off this part of the podcast, so you talked about how you're in the test net phase. Love to just understand, just lay it out for people, kind of where you are on that roadmap, what the pipeline looks like. Rough timeline, educated guess even on mainnet launch, and just again finally make the case for why people should come and get involved and look at what CESS has to offer as a Web3 storage solution, and where can people go, what should they do?
Great, thank you for that question. It's to me, it always starts with educate yourself. Even if you have a project right away, go to our GitHub, go to our website, read the white paper, CESS.cloud, and basically, find out more information. I'm giving you an overall broad vision, but if we get down to, we have 4 different types of miners, 4 different types of nodes. We've really thought this thing through. It's not just storage. There's other parts of this, consensus, and, you can read all about the details, but I start with get yourself into the knowledge space here on how elaborate a system can be now, because when I got involved with this, had read a lot of white papers, seen a lot of stuff out there. And it wasn't until, we started thinking through what we would have to be to launch that we started realizing there's a lot of work for us to do. But with the community, we've been able to do that. So the second thing after becoming educated is we invite you to be part of our Discord, be part of our GitHub, get involved with a conversation with CESS. We have ambassador programs. We have all sorts of programs that you can participate in and actually profit from. We reward people for being involved in our community because it's valuable to us. Any information we get back, we look at that and we say, okay, how can we take that information, implement that into what we're launching, and change things if we need it, or we need to maybe sometimes change the way we present the information. The technology might not change, but how we talk about it can change. And so this is what we've been learning. And we are at a point right now we've really honed it very well. I personally am very excited about where we are today. I feel the latest release is one that's extraordinarily solid. And now it's a matter of timing it so that we really do provide great value to the entire Web3 ecosystem. And so there's a little timing issue there. In terms of us being ready, I'd say we're there. In terms of making sure that the ecosystem participation is not going to take us up like this, and then you know what happens, but really grows it gradually, which is what we want. We want real businesses to be using our CESS ecosystem. We're not looking at projects that are just going to, people that are just going to set up tons of storage and get paid for it. That's not how we operate. Our storage node, as an example, there's 4 different ways we calculate how you get paid. And it's not, it's based on usage, it's based on speed of access. Here's the best part though, is that the way we've done it, even countries are now looking at CESS as a marvelous way to increase their country's GDP. Because even with a not so powerful computer, you can be a node on the CESS ecosystem. And that's because not all information needs to be video streaming. There's a lot of stuff, backups, and a lot of stuff that doesn't have a high amount of data that needs to be stored. And so we're looking at even communicating with countries throughout the world, underprivileged countries, where we could see the entire country adopting CESS. And because of that, they then benefit as a country in raising their GDP. And this is part of what gets me so excited about Web3 in general. The opportunity for us to spread the wealth of technology and not just have it in a silo of certain companies we could mention. That brings back not just security, not just a chance not to have a hackable system, but it brings back our own ownership and our own control. And that to me is the vision that we've had and that we are delivering. So I'd say it's very soon. Watch us, stay in touch with us, subscribe to us on our channels, and you'll be notified of all the new developments that are happening.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nick. Of course, links are in the show notes to the various digital properties as well. I reckon what we do now, Nick, is we'll go to a very quick break and then we'll come back. We'll have some fun. We'll finish off by running you through the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round. Back in 1 second. And boom, we are back. Look at that. And listeners, I'm with Nick Zaldastani. Nick is the chairman and co-founder at CESS. Well, doing a lot of different things, but the easy way to describe it, of course, is decentralized data storage and content delivery. Nick, I like to finish each podcast with a very quick round of rapid fire crypto conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Absolutely.
I like it. I like it. Glad to hear it, Nick. I'm just going to run some questions at you. Just want kind of quick, snappy answers, hot take style, if you like. Question 1 for you, Nick. Where would you say that you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
So the best way, I mean, I am so excited with what's happening with DePIN and tokenization utilization. And what to me that means is that now we have a real reason to have digital currency. For years, digital currency has been a trading situation. It's going up and down because people are trading it. And we take a look at the trades. I don't know if you've looked at them. I'm sure many people in the audience have looked at the trades on Bitcoin in the past couple of months as it skyrocketed. Not a lot of coins, right? It goes up real fast because it's hard to get a lot of Bitcoin. And so what we're seeing is this tokenization in this, real ecosystem world where that now brings these two worlds together in a way where I think it's going to provide a real solid exchange between the Bitcoin / crypto world and the token world. And that's what excites me a lot, because I think that's what's sneaking out there. I think people are starting to see that, and that's one of the drivers from my personal perspective as to why we're seeing excitement again, because it's like we're talking about real technology, not just a trading of a coin.
Yeah, very well said. All right. Well, what would you say then, Nick, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
I would say that it's way beyond decentralized storage. It's the promise of DePIN, which is basically that everything out there is going to be connected in a decentralized way. It's going to bring up some serious challenges. Let's just think about the security when we think of a DePIN electricity plant or nuclear plant. Those have to be extraordinarily secure before we're going to trust that. But that vision of where DePIN can go and how it can touch absolutely everything in our lives in a way that not one organization has control is, to me, the most exciting thing that we're doing in Web3.
I love it. I love it. All right. You know, Nick, William Gibson famously said that the future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here right now, but most people are not aware of it?
I love that quote. I love that statement, because I will raise my hand always being a Monday morning quarterback going, I lived it. My whole life has been like a jet pilot. I see 2 miles ahead. I see years ahead. And I saw how decentralized storage was going to be absolutely critical to the future of technology back when we started CESS. However, people have now caught up with that understanding. So as we look out now, to me, it's the thing that we're going to really see, especially this year, is how radically effective Web3 can be to the enterprise. I think we're going to see some case studies within a year that are going to be let out there that are going to really give great relief to people's trusting these systems and being able to utilize these systems towards, as I said, massive corporate enterprise utilization. And that, to me, is what makes it all happen. Oracle was not Oracle until Oracle was used by the big companies. I think the same thing's going to happen with Web3 until the global 5,000 starts to embrace Web3 in their operations. That's, we're not going to have really Web3. But I think we're going to see this year a couple of examples that will give everyone the excitement that we saw around, for example, Salesforce when it launched in 2000 and other companies like that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. All right, it's time to finish this off. And Nick, a final question for you is, what is your favorite science fiction book, film, or TV show?
Oh, I just saw William Shatner, and I have to say, I was a Star Trek fan from the very beginning. That just showed me that I'm a little older than a few people in your audience, but I think that whole thing of boldly going beyond everything that we know is beyond exciting. And even as I see some of those episodes that I've seen before, I always see something I haven't seen before. And I go, wow, I'm waiting for the day we can beam ourselves up. It will happen, I'm sure.
No, that's a great answer. The OG Star Trek, with William Shatner as Captain James T. Kirk. Fantastic. Look,
Yeah.
Nick,
91 years old, and I just saw him like 2 weeks ago.
I love it. Oh God, what a character he is. So yeah, shout out to William Shatner.
Absolutely.
Look, thank you so much for coming on the show and spending some time with us today, Nick. Been an absolute pleasure. Again, just close it out by telling people where they can find you on X, or wherever else you like to hang out. And again, just tell people again where they should go to delve deep into the wonderful world of CESS.
So, I always say start by just CESS.cloud, Google CESS, Google full name. You'll see all sorts of places, but absolutely go to the GitHub. We have lots of stuff there. Every single month we're putting out more and more information how to utilize the system. Our GitHub, as I said, is very, very, very robust in terms of communication. Discord, X, we have Telegram. There's all different ways we're communicating. Reach out to us. DM me personally. I'm glad to connect with anyone and see how we can help.
Fantastic. And again, links, of course, are in the show notes. Listeners, thank you so much, Nick. All the best, and bye for now.
Thank you.
All right, there you go. There was Nick from CESS. Hey, he was cool. Very passionate, very articulate. Yeah, force of nature, a weapon. That's what we like to see. As I say, links are in the show notes. And William Shatner, great selection there with, as I say, the OG Star Trek. It's been a while since someone's come with a Star Trek here in the crypto conversation, but yeah, so many seasons of Star Trek to get into. But yeah, some of those early seasons, fantastic. Also showing my age, perhaps, but so good to know that William Shatner is still alive and kicking. All right. Great place to end it. Thanks for listening, folks. Please make sure you subscribe to the show. See you real soon. See you next time. This was the Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.